Hello, welcome to the 3 p.m. podcast. My name is Akash, and with me I have a special co-host for today. Uh, Her name is Waidehi, and it's her first time doing a podcast, and thought that just invite her. So Waidehi, do let us know. Introduce yourself for the audience.
So, hey everyone, a little about me. I'm currently a graduate student at Johns Hopkins doing my master's in engineering management, and I also serve as the director of operations for the Johns Hopkins Product Management Club. And I am really excited for today's podcast.
Thank you, Vaidehi. I hope let's try to get a lot of value from this podcast as much as possible, and love to have you on the show with me. So let's just dive right into the podcast for all our viewers right there. This podcast is for people breaking into product management. It's for all those junior PMs, all those students trying to get their first break into this platform. Into this domain and job role. So we're going to talk to one of my favorite seniors and one of my best buddies who's helped me throughout my career. His name is Prabhu, and he has a wealth of knowledge to share. So let's just bring him on the show. uh, so let's have him here. Yes.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. Thank
Akash,
you
you
so
have
much.
such nice things in the back end, and I only hear you say such good things when on a podcast. So we need to do more of this. That's what I want to do.
Yes, we should definitely do more of these. And I think this all started with you. Like it all started with we have doing some messy, scrappy podcast equipment we got from DMC, and we invited you to this demo podcast day. That was really fun, wasn't it?
It was absolute fun. So, for the viewers, just giving you some context and to you, why they here as well. So, once I graduated out of Hopkins, I was still around the area. I was working remote. I was around the area. And then months after, potentially a year after graduation, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, we used to live in the lounge at Hopkins. Let's just go back, have a look, and come back." And I see these boys playing around with the mics and headsets and all that stuff. So we're like, "Okay, what is this for? Podcast? Let's do one right now." And that's how it came to be. It was the best one I've done, I guess.
Okay, there's some things in that podcast which are more
we
we
we are
cannot
not going to touch
discuss.
upon those topics in
Yeah,
this one, but it was fun, I'll tell you.
yeah. For those of you who want to know more, please contact Prabhu. So let's dive in. Prabhu, please go for it. Tell me about a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Right, sure. So, for those of you guys who might have a little bit of a struggle to pronounce my name, I am Prabhu Akhil Minumula. I'm a product manager who works for a company, Peli Biothermal. So, we are into pharma logistics. We take care of things starting from the containers, biotech, vaccines, and stuff like that are being transported to actual fleet management and asset management itself. I originally come from Bangalore, India. Uh, that's the best city in India. Just putting it out there. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Oh,
all of us agree. All of us agree.
ironically, yeah, it's all three of us are banging.
Yes. So that's the city I come from. And in my free time, I try to help people learn about product management and break into product management. And that's the reason I'm here on this podcast. Super excited to talk to you guys.
Wow.
Right.
I really like how you put that through. And tell us more. This is one thing that you always taught me, at least, and all the juniors, is that you need to have a story. Like in the
Right.
very beginning, when you're having a conversation with someone, you need to put out your story. What is your story behind everything? So tell us a little bit about that.
Definitely, definitely. So I think you know a lot more about this, Akash. So I originally come from Bangalore. I previously have had experience in working in the thermal world, material science and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Made my transition into being an entrepreneur. Uh, was able to make some good money there and moved to the US, where I originally wanted to become a management consultant. Now, the more I learned about management consulting and the more I learned about product management, I wanted to be in love with the project that I'm pursuing on a daily basis, right? So in 30 seconds, my story is that I started off as an engineer, made my transition into supply chain, made my transition into learning about business, and then wanted to fall in love with one single product that I wanted to manage. And that's how I came into product management. But, we talk about this quite a bit is because having the storyline makes a lot of sense when you're talking to people. It could be an interviewer, it could be a podcast, or it could be 100 different people just here to listen to you, right?
Hmm.
Because you need to be able to connect the dots and also show that you're passionate about what you're trying to. That's the 30, 60-second pitch, right?
That's that's crazy. I mean, like, there's a lot to learn, especially when you say that you need to keep it concise. And this is something that we also learn in presentations and the class as well. We learned a lot about
Right.
how we need to keep things minimal, and
Yeah,
that's fun.
I think like when you're talking about these introductions, I personally prefer your intro is anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds. And it's
Mm-hmm.
answering at least three of the questions, right? You know, who are you as a person? Or rather, why should I listen to you? Right.
Mm. Okay.
That looking at that 30, 40-second introduction I gave, I came in and said, hey, I'm a product manager. That's the reason I'm on JHPMC's podcast. The second thing is, who do I work for? Where do I work? Which industry I come from? So people who are interested to learn about product management and about the industry now know they need to stay back and have more conversations. And the second part, you want to have that connection with people. I had to talk about Bangalore because I wanted to establish that connection both with you and hopefully I have people out there who are from Bangalore, if not from Mumbai, who don't agree with what I said. And the last part is, why am I here? What are we going to talk about? So it's more along those lines. And Akash, it's nice you bought the presentations then about because we
Hmm.
learned this quite a bit. It's something called Wi-Fi. What's in it for you?
Hmm.
End of the day, you need to be able to communicate that. So keep it concise, get to the point, answer at least three questions that the viewer might potentially have.
Perfect. I really like how you summarized it and broke it down into a framework, like who, when, and like who, what, and when. Like, basically,
Yep,
you
yep,
use that framework, and you also define your Wi-Fi as well.
yep, yep.
Uh, so for all the new product managers out there, tell me a little bit about how you learn. You did tell that you transitioned into product management. Tell me
Yes.
about, like, what are the different roles that are right now, like, for product management. There's a lot of, like, confusion regarding this role, and it's very ambiguous for
Right,
some
right,
people.
right. So people need to realize that product management in itself is ambiguous. And though we talk as if it's been around for a very long time, I don't think it has been around for a very long time. Only the guys who initially kicked things off regarding product management are aware of it. But when you're looking at a lot of companies, they're just introducing those roles, maybe right now or probably in the last 5 to 10 years. So it's a pretty young role. So, in general, when you're looking at product management, I see three types of roles or three types of product managers. Number one being strategy slash business. Second one being a lot more technically product managers. And the third one is an ambiguous one where you're doing everything, a mix of everything, marketing and stuff like that. So I personally am a business based or a strategy based product manager. Again, that doesn't mean what do I do? Um, I'm taking care of operations for the engineering team, creating PRDs for them, setting the vision, and working on those things. But here's the catch between type one and type two. I'm not designing the system. I'm still talking along the lines of what are we going to build and why are we going to build. The how is going to be either the second type of product manager is coming in and creating value, right? And the third one, it's a lot of strategy, it's a lot of marketing. It becomes an ambiguous one when you go into the third one, and companies define it the way they want to define it.
Hmm. And would you add product owners into this mix? I think those are the how people, right? They define the how.
But if you look at the hierarchy, it's product managers, a bunch of product managers, and then you have the product owner right there. And as we say, a product manager can be a product owner at any
Hmm.
given time. or maybe it's the opposite. I'm sorry. A product owner can be a product manager, but a product manager cannot be an owner, right? In terms of putting them in this list, I wouldn't really like to put them in there because it's usually the strategy or the business guys who end up rising to that hierarchy where you
Mm.
end up being the product owner, setting the vision for the company and for the product itself. So at some point, if you are in a really great product management team, you are given that liberty. You are like almost like a CEO for your projects, right? So
Mm.
instead of one project, a product owner has multiple projects. That's the only difference. So I wouldn't add them as a different one. It's just that your responsibility grows, things more at stake. So that's how I would put
Um, you brought up a very important point here, uh, which is product owners and product managers have totally different roles, and like they have different responsibilities as well. So if I or Vaidehi want to get into these roles, uh, there's a lot of like different requirements for this role, and we don't know like which role that we are like more suited for. Uh, Also, there's another like problem of which roles actually take so like people with fresh experience without any experience, basically
it. Right,
freshers.
right, right.
What would you say is the best way to go about this? Like, should we try for like vision strategy based roles, or do you think we should just try for product owner positions?
Right, right. So I would say, and I might slightly disagree with part of your question where you said you're a fresher and you're trying to break into product management. I personally think there is no freshers when you're going into product management because you are coming here with some level of experience, and this could be research in your undergrad or in your master's program, maybe an entrepreneurial experience or a job in itself. Like a majority of the viewers that we have here are either doing their undergrad or their masters, so they might have some type of work experience. Before you make this decision on what type of role do I want to go into, I think the question you need to answer is which industry do I go into, right? And this is my personal take on it. And the reason I have to do that is when you looking at my history with my professional experience, supply chain, logistics. I have some experience in research with thermal material, stuff like that. And then I've got the business acumen. Now, when you're looking at all these three things, an industry which is going to value me is going to be temperature control. And that could be maybe transportation of food or it could be transportation of vaccines. So now from 100 different industries, I have probably like 30 to 300 companies that I could potentially hit. That is when you start asking the second part of the question: what type of product manager do I be, right? If you've got the engineering experience, you move to this type two of product manager, more on the technical side. If you know a lot more about business, you've done a lot of interactions, you know strategy, you know how to handle teams, you have that level of experience, you would get into the strategy side. Now, when you're looking at the APM level, you know, it's the very same logic. The more experience you're going to PM, the lesser the experience you've had, you're falling under the APM.
Hmm.
So that's how I would do it. So first figure out which industry you want to be in, looking at
Mm-hmm.
your experience, what that includes research and stuff like that. Then come back and answer the second question on what
Hmm.
type of product manager do I want to be.
Oh wow, that's a very well thought of answer. Like I mean, like I totally understand what you meant by that. We definitely like yeah. It depends on the domain and in the industry as well. I think that's something that we should keep in mind. A lot of speakers have been talking about the domain, and yeah, you did reiterate that. Uh, so like I want to like a little bit change the topic. I want to like talk a little bit about your journey in Johns Hopkins and like how walk us through your journey. Like just give us a little bit about what you learned in Johns Hopkins. How did that translate into your first job as a PM and so
Right,
forth?
right, right. Hopkins was an extremely interesting experience for me because, like I said, I originally came in with the thought that I want to become a management consultant, not a product manager, right? If you're looking at my experience as well, I've been that one team guy or one company guy before I came here and tried to explore different things. Um, we need to realize when you're talking about product manager and management consultant, the length of each project or potentially the length of time you're going to stay with one product is way, way different. So the first thing I did once I got here is not only learn few of the skills that I really was missing before I got here, but the second thing is try being a management consultant. So I got into the consulting club. Very funny that I was the president of the consulting club, and now I'm at JHPMC giving a podcast. So that's a funny experience, like I said. So I got to work with the consulting club where we were working directly with companies doing pro bono projects. So what for probably 3 semesters there for 3 different companies, rose through the ranks of the club, learned more about how consulting works, how management consulting works in general. And then I kind of made a decision that, this is not for me. I need to be in love with one single product, one single company. And that kind of gives me a lot of pleasure when I'm working there. So in terms of my hierarchy in journey from semester one, it was learning a lot more about business, communication, and numbers. And I think I was trying to hone those skills, the one that I have acquired when working as an entrepreneur, kind of develop on those. Sem two was more along the lines of technical knowledge that I wanted to gain. Sustainability was one of them. Learning about building really complex optimization models was the second one. And then only then I kind of had that experience. I had the knowledge on the both business side and technical side before I made that switch.
Wow, this makes sense. I think that would like round it up. Like, do you think that's the perfect good way of doing it? Like, you just start with for business, then go to your technical, and like probably somewhere like in the end of your first semester, you realize consulting is not for me.
I think I realized it pretty late. I think it was the end of second semester. I realized that I didn't like I like product management more than management consulting.
Mm-hmm.
But if I had another chance to go back and redo everything, that's a difficult question, to be honest, Akash. I would say go for the technical courses first, is what I'd like to do. Again, it depends on if you've had some work experience or not, what kind of work experience you've had. But if you've not had the work experience and you're in questions, try different things in semester one. That's when you need to make a decision on what exactly do you want to do. There's always people who want to do management consulting or product management. Sem one is to figure that out. So if you are not sure which one you want to go, I would say work on the business side, try all these different projects, try to get involved with these clubs, and then get into the technical stuff. If you already know, okay, I'm sure about this, this is where I want to go. Again, if you're able to get that answer on which domain I'm going to enter in semester one, is what I would do. So, considering I was into management consulting, I had a very unique situation. But if I go back, I think I would do engineering first, the technical courses, and learn about those things, then do the business side of things and figure things out.
That's really interesting. So something I just realized is that the three of us here have slightly different backgrounds in the sense you had a startup. Akash has about 3 years of experience. I just graduated this year in my bachelor's in computer science. So I was wondering if there is a different approach to PM given our different backgrounds, or or that once we are here, we're just sailing in the same boat.
We are we are not in the same boat, I would say, but we are in the same sea. That's how I would put it, right?
Good
Uh,
one.
the only difference here is what kind of roles are you able to apply versus Akash. I think Akash can go for a product management role, and someone like yourself, IDE, is able to go for an APM role, an associate product management. But in general, the approach remains same. In your case, let's actually break that down. You've had your engineering experience right now. You come from that computer science background. Sure, you've had internships, some kind of work experience, and your projects to kind of learn how operations work. How does software life cycle, software development life cycle works? So you are good to go with the technical components. If I had to be judge, and I haven't looked at your resume, and we haven't talked a lot about your career, my I would judge that you're missing the business side of things, the business acumen, communication component. So in your case, if you know you're going into product management, it's the same thing. It's you figure out the business side, go back to the technical, brush things up, figure out which domain, and then attack. So we definitely are in the same sea, but not in the same boat. That's how I would put it.
Mhm.
Got it, got it. That makes a lot of sense. So I was wondering, I mean, I think there are a bunch of us who come with who just graduated and have a very technical background. So when we're applying for, such roles, there's quite a transition of making your resume from technical to,
Right,
more
right, right.
management-like, and then it
Correct.
really hurts to remove some of your really good technical products because they are not relevant anymore.
Yes.
So
Yes.
how do you think we could go about that?
So, end of the day, your resume is a one pager and you will have to get things up, right? So, I'm sorry we have to do that. And I totally understand where you're coming from. It definitely hurts when you're trying to be like, just this one line. I'm sure they're going to look at this and what if he's like, I'm going to talk to this person. So that feeling is always going to be there. So I I would say don't remove everything, even though it's absolutely technical. It all depends on which role you're applying for and what type of product manager you want to become. So I wouldn't say, okay, just remove these things. They're not relevant to become a product manager, but it could be relevant to the domain. It could be relevant to the role you're trying to get in. That's one. The second thing you could potentially do is have a portfolio of your own. So just like you have LinkedIn, your email and phone number, put a link to your portfolio where you're talking more about these projects and maybe even talk about, one of your projects at Hopkins where you're creating a PRD, when you're creating mock-ups. So stuff like that. So that kind of doesn't, you don't have to remove all your experiences that you really love. But at the same time, you also have extra space once you have a website for people to go on and learn about what you've done in the last few
Mm.
years, right? So it all depends on the context there. But unfortunately, you need to be able to have some white space on the resume, make it as easy as as possible for people to go through it. So that would be my take.
That's really very insightful, and I think we can add. You can add a little bit when we look at a single, like we at the end of the show we'll have like a resume. You can look at it and like give us a little bit more feedback. I
Yes.
think your resume was like something you told me like some unique aspects which I still remember, like in every point have like a
Right,
starting uh,
right, right. In
boarded thing or something like that.
one of the topics I wanted to discuss is kind of, talk to the viewers and to you guys on how did I stand out? Why did I get that interview
Mm,
call? And
mm,
what did I talk in the interview that they were
mm,
like, yeah, let's give this chap a chance
mm,
and take a bet on it. Uh, the approach on the resume in terms of your storytelling and communication and in an interview is absolutely different. Just talking about the resume, and you can look at this, you can just Google and figure out heat maps and how people are going through a resume in itself.
mm,
It's usually the left hand side that has the most amount of attention. People want to read the first 5 words and then the kind of attention goes down. They want to skip, go to the next line, skip,
mm.
go to the next line. Unless there's probably like 2, 3 individuals they want to interview and they want to fix on one guy. If not, they have to go through a lot of resumes. And I've done this myself where at times you want to just skim through very quickly, right? So in a resume, the way I like to communicate, unlike the usual star method where you're saying situation, task, action, and result, I rather give that single hard punch right hook in the start where I'm saying, here's the result, here's the situation, here's the actions I took. So I would completely remove the task component depending on what type of experience I've had, but the task is a little optional. So put the result ahead. So now you're trying to show I've created a lot of impact on each one of those lines. So usually a line could be as I developed an order management system using ABC technology by creating a PRD and it improved the lead time by 30%. Rather, I would say improve the lead time to process an order by 30% by using the following technologies and interacting with these SMEs. So now I know you've created value at the start in itself. I don't have to go through the whole line to figure out what is that 30% about.
Hmm.
So that's with the resume. As for the interview itself, if I was a product manager and I was looking at a few interviews very recently, people spend a lot of time explaining about the situation. The same thing, the star method, right?
Hmm.
Situation, task, action, and
Hmm.
then your result. As you go through your answer, you realize, oh shit, I've spent 2 minutes explaining the situation. I'm going to quickly run through task, action, and result. I wouldn't do that. What I really hope interviews go is situation is a very quick 15, 20-second introduction. Spend more time on what did you do? What was your thought process? So as a product manager, 50% of your time is putting out fires and being okay with curveballs coming towards you. So how do you react in those situations? How do you interact with people in those situations and bring in your technical knowledge, right? So don't spend way too long talking about the situation. So in my interview, very short, probably 10 to 30 seconds of, okay, here's what the situation I was in, but the thought process I had, here's the list of options I had. How did I prioritize one of them? Now you're talking about you're a strategic thinker who's able to think in multiple ways, but you're also an individual who's able to prioritize, one of the most basic skills a product manager is supposed to have. So you're not directly telling, oh, I know, Moscow prioritization and stuff like that, but that's how my decision making in itself is. So you're subtly communicating through your actions and spending more time, talking about your actions rather than the situation. So that's the two different approaches I would take for resume and for the interview process itself.
Sounds really good, and I have a lot of like questions on this, like, but to summarize, I think it's basically you going to the interview and having what I mean. So you did mention that you need to talk to the interviewer about your, like, keep it short about like what is the situation, and then you need to go more into what you actually did, the thought
Okay.
process behind that. That's very interesting for me at least. And but how do you like talk to them about, like, maybe like your PM skills, like in general? Do you use any framework, or like if there's like some estimation questions or like some kind of other technical questions that like in the interview?
That's interesting. I personally do not follow a standardized framework. I just follow what works best for me. The way I'm communicating usually is I set the agenda and then I go into my answer in itself. So I'm talking about, okay, you asked about, tell me a time. And we'll talk about technical and non-technical questions as well, Akash. I know you pointed at technical ones. The
Mm-hmm.
not tech ones, I'm usually setting the agenda that first I'm going to talk about this, talk to you about the action, and then we'll briefly talk about how did we celebrate, I guess, as we went through this challenge. So I would set the agenda and then talk about it because now people know what's coming next, what's coming next.
Mm-hmm.
As for technical ones, there are frameworks. I would say it's as in the easiest one is to have a standardized framework that works personally for you and the way you answer it and always pursue it. Now, when you're talking about, you know, let's just take a technical questions like, hey, we design a product which does A, B, and C, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would go in always prepared that any product, at least the domain that I come from, needs to address the following different things: the user, the regulations, the technical team. Within the technical team, you can also talk about the money and also the practicality of the solution, how big the team is. And then you're building that chart up for that particular product and for that respective context. I think that framework works for everything, including estimations, including creating a new product, right? Just bringing that mind map up, drawing it, and then, as we go through, it's just like a tree root. You're going digging deeper into each one of those.
Makes a lot of sense. You touched upon a very interesting topic of regulations. Can you just give us a little bit about why regulations matter so much, like when you're talking about giving an answer in a PM interview?
I think it's the reason regulations is very important is people don't talk about it as widely as it is in the industry, right? When it's about moving data from location A to B, when you're communicating with the customer, even if they're talking about what are the number of users we have from our organization, is it okay to say just the number? Is it okay to give the names of it? So that's the basics, like GDPR and stuff like that. Being aware of it can potentially like resolve a majority of the issues you will face when communicating with people. I was talking to a friend of mine and he was telling me in Europe, GDPR that's where it originates from. It's super serious that being able to handle personal information and also, put that out there as well, right? companies at times end up paying millions in fines because of one, two, or three small errors. And this is after you go report it. If they catch you, it's a completely different picture in itself. So, though there is training that is available for that respective industry or the company that you get into, being aware of these things will kind of like you don't have to face those curveballs and a lot of drama that you might end up in. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, when you're looking at product building features, what's usually forgotten in younger PMs is we're not considering regulations or how important regulations are. In the industry I come from, the user needs comes second only after regulations. That's how important it is.
Mm-hmm.
So you could have why they say it's a great feature, let's have this introduced, let's have it implemented. But then if the regulations say that doesn't work, you cannot do it. Because at the end of the day, they're coming back to the product manager and the product team and be like, why the hell did we do this? And you are in trouble, both legally and within the organization.
Okay, wow, that's something I really didn't know about, and thank you so much. And I think a lot of freshers are thanking you for this. Uh, so yeah, something that I'm really curious about is that what's that one skill or experience that you wished you had focused on more during your time at Johns Hopkins to better prepare for your PM career now that you look back?
I think, I wouldn't say one, there's quite a lot I wish I would have focused on. I think. So I would say the non tech world, being able to both ask and answer dumb questions. That is the skill that I didn't think, I focused more on. Um, when you're having conversations with these technical guys, you've got that engineering experience, but technology is growing on a daily basis, and there's always something you might forget. And it could be as simple as what is an API integration, as simple as that. And you might not really realize what that is at times, right? Be okay to ask questions like, okay, where's the documentation? I have no clue what API you're talking about. So can you give me more context? And at the same time, there could be another individual who has no context coming to you and asking those questions, right? So if I had focused on that particular skill, communication would be a lot easier. I think we could have gotten work done at a much faster pace. Because people are assuming, okay, this is what I think he's saying, and let me go do it. But then that's probably not what I'm saying, and vice versa as well, right? So, in the non-tech world, that's what I would say. Being able to both ask and answer dumb questions is what I wish I would have focused on. As for the technical side, I think I should have focused a little more on the financial component, because it's not always about building the right product, building the most perfect product, but rather building a practical product, right? So, being able to build these financial analysis even before you pursue a project is what I think I should have focused a little more on trying to learn about.
That's a
I,
really valuable take. Yeah, sorry.
I think Annette is probably, if she's watching this, she's
Yeah,
probably smiling.
I was gonna say that. Like one thing, like I think all the juniors would have been like, "Oh, we finally got through accounting and finance." That's like a dreaded subject for a lot of people.
Yes, yes, yes. So for the viewers who are not from, who haven't pursued masters in engineering management, there's a particular course called finance and accounting, or was it called accounting and
Yeah,
finance?
accounting and finance.
Accounting and finance. So it's usually supposed to be a 2 semester course, which is squeezed into 1 semester, and you're learning about accounting and finance, and we're going through it. Nobody loves it until you graduate, and then you realize, oh, I remember what happened in class. Now I should have paid a little more attention then. So that tends to happen. But you believe me or not, I remember the first time I was putting a proposal for a project, and they asked me, okay, how do the numbers look like? Like, what do you mean the numbers? Like, oh, try to build a capital budget. Tell us what's the return on investment, internal rate of return, and stuff like that. I went back to the assignment I did a year ago, and then I looked at that, and I literally built the same thing. And we realized over time that there was already a template within the company I wasn't aware of, and it looked literally the same. It's the amount of principal money. There's other, just this the same way we built models in class. It looked absolutely the same with a few extra stuff for each company. Usually does it. So yeah, should have focused more on it. But thanks to Annette, whoever helped, who made sure we did these assignments, made sure we got those skills when at Hopkins.
Hmm. That's Yeah, go for it, Vaideh.
I, I actually didn't know that it's a 2 semester course. Now I really feel better about myself. That okay, I'm doing great. Yeah, at some points I used to think, oh my god, I missed calculus. That was better. But now that you said it really helps, I'm sure it's a great
It is
learning. Yeah.
definitely, definitely. Hands down.
Like you might have also learned a little bit in like the strategies class also and professional presentation. You did talk about professional presentation and how to keep things crisp while presenting
Yeah.
to your audience. That's super important, is what you said, and I totally agree with that. Like that's something that people don't learn on a day-to-day basis. That's something that needs to like imbibe into them.
Right.
How about strategies? What like how did your consulting experience translate? Like all what all frameworks do you actually use in your day-to-day? uh like
In terms
yeah.
of frameworks, the one that comes to my mind first is two things. One, I think it's called the three whys. You keep asking why, until you get to the root cause. That's number one. The integration isn't working. Why isn't it working? Which side is it?
Uh-huh.
Is it on my software or is it the software that I'm integrated with that's giving us issues? Why
Hmm.
is it giving issues? So it's a unique situation. So those three whys is usually, or potentially five whys, helping you
Hmm.
get to the root cause. That's one. And also when communicating, I usually use the 5W1H, what,
Hmm.
when, who, then how. So
Hmm.
that's another one that I usually use, especially in PRDs, when you're communicating what you want for the product. I think that level of clarity is really important. So those are the ones that come on top of my head and I use on a much frequent
Hmm.
basis in comparison to others. But there might be one or two that I'm not able to remember at this point.
That
But
makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, but I think strategy, the reason I really like strategies as a class and learning about skills there was a mix of communicating with C-level executives or even people who are sitting in really great positions, right? Though I might not completely agree with presentations then, we're having minimalistic slides. That component is corporate doesn't usually work like that. You're
Hmm.
using the presentation to present it to people and also distribute this very same document. So that's where that minimalistic approach might not work. But then the amount of content and the way you present it, having that Wi-Fi, what's in it for
Hmm.
you, being able to give that punch when you that opening line when you're
Hmm.
going for a presentation always works. So I think bits and pieces of each one of those courses from MSM, MS in Engineering Management, definitely did help me become a better product manager.
Hmm.
Controversial take, I guess, especially for
There's a lot of
students
people.
hearing that.
Maybe even your classmates who
My
are
friend,
watching. But I totally agree on a lot of aspects. Like they do help in the long run, and it's good that you've translated them into the product management career, and it's nice to see that as well.
yep,
Uh, I have one question from the chat, if it's okay with you. It's
yep,
more.
go ahead.
It's about. Let me just pull it up for you. I don't know who this is. Oh, hi Akash. Okay. What qualities make someone a great product manager? If you
I
would.
would say, again, I would talk in both the business acumen side and maybe in three different baskets: one business, communication, and then technical skills.
Mm-hmm.
On the business side, being able to get that contextual information on where is your organization at, how much money do you have within your team to be able to spend, get that contextual information. So being able to read and get context would be a quality that makes a product manager an excellent product manager on the business side. In terms of communication, I think I've said this before, being able to ask and answer dumb questions. And the last one on the technical side is being aware of, at least if not everything, at least having an idea at 1,000 feet level or a 30 feet level, depending on what kind of role you're doing, of what is going on throughout the life cycle. So if it's API integrations, I would say be aware of it, how it
Mm-hmm.
works, but then you don't have to have the skill to literally create the integration itself. If it's even writing the front end, learn what is it that your vision is, what do you want, how practical it is for our engineers to ask. At times, there's always requests coming in where they're asking you something that's not possible at all in the time frame. So being able to have that information always helps because you can set the right set of type of expectations with your development team, and they love working with you. So
Mhm.
those would be the three on top. And then if I had to and add one last as appetizer slash dessert, I would say being able to say no. You know,
Hmm.
if it's a great PRD, if it's a great product, people always want to do more and more and more. And even as a product manager, you want to deliver better, better, better. Being able to say, nope, we cannot, go for a scope creep because we cannot afford it financially, bandwidth wise, timeline wise. Those would be the four skills I would focus on, which makes a great product manager an excellent product manager.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense. And so, like, you did explain these skills that product management requires. How do we get these skills? What are some resources that you think we should be looking into to gain these skills? Is there something you have in mind, courses as well as articles, or like just building PRDs or like building websites? Or like, how do we start? Can you just give us an action plan to go forward?
Attend the 3 p.m. podcast for starters, I guess. That's what I would say. No, in terms of action plan, I would say first learn to talk to people, product managers out there, connect with them, try to understand what is it that a product manager does. I didn't know that there are different types of product managers until I became a product manager and then realized, okay, it's not just one type, there's other types of product management as well. So learn to talk to people, and talk to product managers who are either maybe were or want to be product managers. That's number one. The second thing I would do is get yourself a mentor, who's currently a product manager, has a lot of experience there. That's for starters. The third thing I would do is learn what is it that now that they're talking to you about. Okay, I work with agile teams, I work with Scrum teams. These terminologies as they come through, I would say go back and learn more about it. There are courses like CSPO you could potentially do. Then you don't have to have a certification to prove to the world that I could be a great product manager. The YouTube was again an excellent source, just trying to understand how do you build a PRD, what is it that an individual does when interacting with the UX team versus a UI team or a backend team, full stack developer, stuff like that. And then I would say the last thing I would do is build a portfolio where you're actually doing these things. Let's just not say I can build a PRD and I've learned to do it, but actually do it. So create a portfolio, choose a product that you are passionate about, or you are hearing a lot about, where it's AI based, where it could be food based, agri based, pharma based, whatever it is. Try to build a PRD, try to create a plan on how you would, you're looking at your team's potential bandwidth and you're saying, okay, it's going to be a 4-week project or a 14-week project, and here's how we are going to do it, right? It's great if you are also able to, you are the developer here in our case, why you are a developer, you've got that background experience. So I would say be the whole team for one project, be the product manager, be the developer, be the guy who can, be the woman who can test as well. So, having those things always helps for people who do not have a lot of experience in this world, especially, as you said, Vaidehi, there are a lot of people who are coming in as freshers with not a lot of experience in this world. Doing that would really help. So 4 steps, just revise, talk to people, find a mentor, learn about the terminology that you hear from both your mentor and people, and go create a portfolio of your own.
Great. Absolutely noted that down. So I would like circling back to something you said about picking an industry first and then, trying to hone your expertise in it. The situation currently about the market, as everyone says, is really bad.
Right.
And they say that, just pick anything that you get. So do you think right now we should just focus on the first thing that we get, or maybe actually take the liberty or take the risk of finding a particular industry that you'd be interested and then being picky? So
Right. So the reason I'm aware about the market, and the change in administration also plays a role here, and a lot of different things that are happening. I would The reason I put selecting a domain in front of the second part of the question, or the second where you're going ahead and applying for a product management role, is not because I'm asking someone to be picky, be choosy about where or what they want to do, but it's rather more about the amount of success you can get by doing it, right? Now, for example, I have no experience in AI-based stuff, right? And imagine me placing a resume for ChatGPT, trying to get into that company, versus Akash has some experience working as a developer on AI-based products. You tell me, if you are the manager, who are you going to pick to have a conversation? Akash, obviously. So it's more along the lines of um, being able to have a higher success rate is why I would say choose a domain. But again, there are people who come from one world, let's say supply chain, and they want to go into completely different. You can always do it and go ahead and apply. The best thing there is, have someone within the company refer you, have the right network where they're able to say, okay, Prabhu seems to be a guy who has that knowledge. He can pick things up pretty quickly. I think he's going to create great value for our company. So that would be my approach.
Wow. I mean, Prabhu, like, I totally understand like how you put it across, and it makes sense also. Do you think like you can like talk about how you did this in like LinkedIn, or like do you have any like networking strategies in particular that you used via to like encapsulate whatever you just said?
Right, right. There's two types of people out there on LinkedIn that would potentially respond back to you, right? The first one is people who you know, either directly or indirectly. That's number one. The second one is, just cold emails or just reaching out, cold messages to people. That's the second one. Um, I would say knowing people directly or indirectly always helps. Maybe they're from Hopkins, they're in the program I studied, engineering management. It's 10 or 12 years old at this point. I'm sure there are at least 500 to 1,000 people out there who pursued engineering management at Hopkins, right? Then I would go to the second level. Maybe it's from a different university, but they've pursued engineering management and have had a similar journey like mine. So now, obviously that individual wants to come out and help you out. That always happens. Finding that common ground is always important when you're trying to network. That's the first type of people I would reach out to. Second one is, if you find individuals within a target company that you have, I would say network to learn about the company and their role rather than saying, I need a referral. Because, there is a huge difference in trying to understand them, trying to establish a relationship before you can get a referral versus just saying, hey, can I get a referral? And, something that I didn't realize during my job hunting process was, I was just looking for one referral so that, my resume gets noticed. That was the end goal. That was the optimizations model's objective all the time. But in reality, here's a list of things that I missed. One, I could have learned so much from them. And it's not just a potential referral, but also them going to the manager and saying, this guy seems like a really nice chap who wants to get into product management. Have a look in the one. Three, I have lost a lot of connections. I could have created a huge network if I just pull up the people who have given me a referral or not given me a referral as well. Being able to call and ask about, okay, I'm trying to get into this new industry. What do you think about it? I'm trying to create this new feature. What's your feedback? So, I skipped those three things in search of just one referral. So try to establish a relationship, try to learn from it, and try to become potentially better product manager through these interactions. So that's how I would say you need to approach it. And I will do that right now. And people want to talk when you want to ask them about their product.
Gotcha. I mean, that makes a lot of sense because, like, normally people have like a very narrowed or skewed way of applying, like code applying, and the way you talked about it, it's like you take one step back and you just look at the broad perspective. I need to first like make a portfolio and then use your portfolio as a reason to talk to them, like ask questions that actually build interest, make connections that way, and then it's more like organic, I think, is what you're saying. You need to be, yeah, I totally understand, and I've seen a lot of people getting what they want through this, like getting them from the second connection to the first connection, like a strong inner circle. So that makes a lot of sense.
One thing I'm very I definitely want to say for aspiring people who want to get into the product management world, you're stressed before you get into, getting to be a product manager, thinking that you're not blessed. And once you become a product manager, you're blessed, but you're still stressed. So the stress is always going to be there, irrespective of you get it or you don't get it. So people need to be aware of the fact that you will have a lot of curveballs coming in. There'll be a lot of fires for you to put out as well. we have to think about that before you step into roles like product or project management as well.
Talking about stress, I think time management is something that we all have really struggled for. That's something I'm facing every day, like, handling between assignments and networking and actually spending time to build a quality relationship with someone.
Right.
So, do you have like a quick tip as to how an MCM student could manage their time better?
Well, I had the right answer like the rest of the questions. Why they because I'm figuring it out myself because I'm head over heels with my product, and that's how much love I'm in with that product. I keep thinking about it all the time. But I think um, being able to prioritize is what works. As a product manager on a daily basis, you write requirements, you're prioritizing stuff, you do that over this, stuff like that. It's the same thing even with, work-life balance as well. You need to be able to sit down and say, okay, there are 10 different things on my list. All of them are important, but then you need to figure out how do you prioritize them, what needs to be done now, what could be done an hour later or tomorrow as well. So, product management also works for work-life balance and personal life, I guess. So that would be my approach.
Got it.
One, yeah, one rock, two mangoes. The same thing. That makes a lot of sense. I mean, did you really know that you will get into the biopharma industry when you were applying for these companies, or like were you like focusing a lot on this domain?
So I knew I had that experience in logistics and supply chain
Mm.
and temperature control. So I was only looking at roads as that. So it was not just pharma logistics that I was looking at, but I was also
Mm.
looking at cold chain technologies. I was also looking at stuff like HelloFresh, these
Mm.
companies which could potentially make use of this background information. So I don't come from a very strictly computer science, being able to be
Mm.
a full stack developer or a back end developer. I don't come from that experience. But if given an opportunity in one of these industries, I have a lot of contextual information that I could use. I know how
Mm.
operations work. I know how supply chain works. I know a little about the regulations as well, which allowed me to be able to easily settle into the company, not learn stuff that I've already known about.
Mm.
So the rest of it, obviously, you need to have some level of contextual information regarding how do you write software, how is it built, how do you
Mm.
push. That with some experience, I was able to get. So that helped me make a decision on again domain, and then what type of product manager.
Mm. Gotcha. I mean, I think this is like a good circle. We're like coming back all the
Yeah,
way to the first question, and it's a very good summary of what we've spoken so far. And I hope, like, let's give you a break. I want you to like look at a resume, like until I pull it up. Like, you can take a break. Like, I think we have one resume, and it won't take much time. It's just
sure.
your basic personal like, what do you say, opinions on this. There's nothing wrong or right about it, so you don't
Right,
have to
right.
worry. Let me just pull it up. Yeah, so we have this resume which one of our viewers had submitted to us. So let me know, like, like as you said, where your eye goes, and like all those kind of like tricks and like tactical strategies you said. How, in the very beginning, on overall, how do you think would you read this resume for a PM job?
Let's talk about me looking at the resume and the way it's structured. One, and also is it a great resume for getting into the PM world? That's two things I'd compare. One thing, the first second I look at this, there's so much information here. There has to be some level of white space that I'd like to see, especially the spaces between, right after coursework. Hopefully, there's a little more space so that I can know its education, skills, work experience, and also between both the educations itself. So, give me some room to be able to easily skim through, make it as easy as possible to skim through those things, right?
Mm.
The second one is I would say put your work experience as high as possible. Push it
Mm.
up. I've seen if you've got some kind of work experience, I would say put work experience first, education, and then skills. That's
Mm.
how I would see it. So let's jump into the second part. Is this a resume for you to get into product management? It talks about
Mm.
student product consultant, so student product strategy consultant, software developer engineer, okay, software developer intern. I would try to put, I would remove leadership experience totally. And if you
Okay.
still want to put, director of events and stuff like that, I would put it under education, where it says Johns Hopkins, you write
Hmm.
courses,
Right
and
here, yeah.
exactly.
Without
So
this.
yeah, put bullet points there. So now you'll get more space. And with the work experience, I would split them into work experience and maybe product management experience is what I would say.
Mm.
So that you're able to say, I'm not just a student consultant, but I've been a software developer. Um, if you want to put it in just work experience, it's all right. Put software development engineering as the top, though I know it's not in the chronological order, it's all right because you want to tell them I have corporate experience. I don't come from
Mm.
a background who's just done student stuff.
Mm.
Now, again, if that's your experience, that's all right. But then if you have that work experience, make sure you showcase it, right?
So push it up, like even though it's
Yeah,
not chronological, it's better to have your strongest experience on top.
on top. And then especially something like this, because I see only one of them being corporate experience of the
Hmm.
four. So put it on top, and the rest of them could be in chronological order. That's how I would do it. And then project lead, online thrift food store. I would actually put, I'm assuming it's an entrepreneurial thing or potentially the last line that we're looking at. uh,
Mm-hmm.
Incre- in, struggling how to pronounce it, but yes, the project leads one online thrift store.
Oh,
I
okay.
would
That one.
say,
Okay.
yeah, that could potentially be a work experience in itself if you've
Hmm.
worked on it for close to 6 months or for a few months right there.
Hmm.
I would put it right there. The Google Developer Student Club.
So,
You
what's
could,
the difference between a project and a work ex? You think it's just like 6 months, or like, do you think like you can put anything in project, or is there something like you need to have an offer letter or something like that?
it all depends on the amount of work you did and how corporate it was, right?
Hmm.
If you're doing it for a client, if you're doing it even pro bono, that's all right. You would put it in work experience. But whoever this resume belongs to, they did a good job by saying it's a student consultant, stuff like that. That's good. So those would be my preliminary recommendations. I don't see a lot of numbers on what type of value you created, but they've
Hmm.
made sure they've highlighted. We see a few right there, reducing
Hmm.
testing time by 75% and validation
Hmm.
detection by 50%. Again, reverse it. Put your result up front and then tell me what you did. I would be
Hmm.
so happy to see those 75% and 50%. Just now,
Hmm.
when I was talking to you, I just looked at 75 and 50, but I wasn't able to quickly grasp that it's reducing testing time, increasing vulnerability, those kind of stuff. And one good line here is engineered a scalable backend to support increasing data loads. That's a very good line. They've made sure they've put in a lot of technical stuff there,
Hmm.
what their capabilities are. So
Yeah.
just to summarize, if you have corporate experience, front load it, number one, make sure there's enough amount of white space so that it's easier for people to skim. And if you have numbers, try to reverse the sentence and make sure you put the
Hmm.
numbers front and then your actions and situations later.
I think that's perfect. I think those 3 points are like something that not many people talk about. And as I'm seeing this resume, I can figure that out as well. Like it's hard to like look at these numbers, and because they're at the end of the sentence and they're like at the extreme right, so it's
Right.
hard for people to like find them in the first place.
Exactly. Exactly.
Even though you might have like an amazing profile.
Yep, yep. And again, I want to make sure that whoever this resume belongs to, it's a great profile. If you're able to make those few changes, they can apply for an APM role. And this is one of the perfect resumes you could potentially have to get into APM. Uh,
Hmm.
type 2, the technical APMs, or even these guys can also get into the type 1 as well. They have that flexibility because both Vaidehi, yourself, and someone who
Hmm.
has something like this are able to do both strategy as well as being able to get into the technical
Hmm.
side of product management.
Yeah. this makes I guess so. Like CS people are in a lot of demand these days, I guess. Anyway, uh, let's wrap up. I think we learned a lot. It's been an hour where you've just been like talking for a lot. You've shared a lot of insights with us. I think Vaidehi, if you want, you do you have any like final questions, or like I have like one final question which I wanted to ask him, and then we can like wrap up.
Sure. I mean, I have a lot of questions, but I will pick the best one,
Yeah,
hopefully.
please.
So, I mean, this has been a very insightful session, and I mean, it was a lot of things that he said. But one thing I would love to know about is, out of all these experiences that you had, what's one key takeaway or something, one tip that you want to tell anyone who's in MSEM or not, that, who's moved to the US doing their masters, any one tip that you have that would,
Like
make
as like a
someone feel,
brother, like you just want to like help you. Like how would
yeah,
you put it out? Yeah.
like something motivational that would help someone having a bad day.
Oh, those are two different things, by the way.
Yeah.
You're making it such a hard answer for me. I
Sorry.
would say have a plan and go through the plan and make sure it's a long term plan. And I say long, I'm not telling 10 years, but even a year and a half or 1 year. Make sure you have a plan and build that plan by having conversations with your peers and your mentors and follow through with the plan. Results take time at times, and that's completely all right. As long as you have a plan, that's the most important part. Even if things don't work according to what you want to do or what you wanted, you will still learn a lot from that journey. So that would be my number one. So plan could be about what courses do I pick? Who do I talk to? How do I talk to? Learning this skill, learning that skill. So having that plan is very, very important. And again, coming back to one of your previous questions, Akash, if I went back to MSEM again, to Hopkins again, I'm just this newbie who's come from my master's program. That is what I would do. Have a plan and be okay with not having success as you go through that plan as well.
Having plan B.
There is always that.
That's always there. You might have to become a software developer again, by the way.
Oh, dear.
But yeah, I hope everything works out. So do you have any other questions while they're here? Like you can probably we're good to go. I mean, yes. I had almost a similar question to Aide. I just wanted your final take on
Stole it.
this,
She
and
stole
it
it.
makes sense. Yeah, she stole the thunder. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wow, it's been amazing talking to you, Prabhu, and I can't thank you enough for coming. It's been a pleasure, and I would really love to like invite you sometime again to our podcast if given a chance. Like, please do accept our invitation. Like when this blows up, maybe next semester we might also like call you in uh, to talk more about new experiences that you might have had. Yes, but thank you so much. Uh,
Definitely. It was lovely getting here. Vaidhi, it is lovely to meet you. Akash, again, always a pleasure to have this conversation. And I hope we created some value for the
yeah.
viewers here.
Yes, I totally think we did, and I think Vaidehi will also agree with me. We did.
Yes, I think we made their weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. You guys made my weekend as well. So thank you so much for inviting. It was a lovely conversation. Again, hope to see you guys soon.
All
Yes,
right.
looking forward.
That's all right. Thank you so much, viewers, for tuning in. This is Akash, Vaidehi, and Prabhu. We're signing off for today. Thank you so much for coming. Bye bye.